Hi, I'm Amy. Welcome to the video. Hey guys, today's video is going to be a review on the Rephr Core Collection and number 22 bronzer brush. When I purchased this, it was 50% off the Core Collection and then 20% off of all the other brushes on the site. If that sale is still going on, I will link it below. I'm going to try to get this video up as soon as possible. Let's get started. So I'm going to go through the brushes real quick and just show you them first. The Core Collection has two face brushes. Number 4, which is this kind of angled small blending brush, and it is also pinched this way, so it is wider like a fan, but then it's angled here. And then number 5 is this small blending brush, and it is pinched as well, so you have a narrow side and a wide side. It comes with 3 eye pencils. The number 1 is this blending brush that is pinched, so it has more of a ability to kind of get into the crease and blend that out. It is pinched here, but it is pretty long and pretty fluffy. And then here is the Rephr number 2, which is a small smudger brush, and it is a little bit fluffy. And then we have the number 3 brush, which is this super teensy tiny pencil brush, and it comes to quite a point there as well. So those are the brushes that come in the Core Collection. That's brushes number 1 through 5. And then this additional one I got, and this is the brush that excited me the most, and I've been wanting this for a while, and that is the number 22. It is this giant fluffy brush that is pinched as well, so you can get precision or blending out of it. All of these bristles are hand put into here. It's done in Japan, and that is the Japanese way. That's how you're gonna get at your brushes. If you want to learn more about brushes and about Japan, go to Kiki Sweat. I will link one of her brush videos down below. She actually just did one about the Rephr brushes, so I will put that below. She is way more technical and knowledgeable about brushes and the background of brushes and all of that. And they are undyed goat hair, which means that you can use them with powders and creams. That's one thing I was concerned about, because I know that natural hair brushes aren't the best for creams because you can ruin them and they're expensive, but these ones are undyed, which means you can use them with creams, which I thought was important because these to me looked like they would be good for creams. So first I used the number 4 brush, and I used this to set my under eyes, and then I used this to put on a little bit of cream contour. And I actually loved it for setting my under eyes. I feel like this is the one I normally use to set under my eyes, and this is that one. Now this one, I feel like is just a little bit bigger, so it does go into my eye a little bit more. But this one, since I can go this direction at my eye, let's see. Yeah, you can see the circumference there. This one is a lot smaller footprint, so I can get in there and not go inside my eye. So I really enjoyed this for going under my eye, and the taperedness helps, you know, like it fits perfectly right there in the face. I really enjoyed this brush for that. Now this one it's pretty dense, but it does have some give. This one is a little bit more dense and stiff than this one is. It is got some fluff to it. So I really enjoyed it for the under eye powder. And then next I used it for the cream contour. I used the Milk bronzer stick, and first I used it by taking the brush straight to the stick and then to my skin, and I just patted. I didn't really have to do any like circular motions or anything, and it blended in quite nicely. And then on the other side of my face, I tried applying the bronzer stick directly to my skin and then blending it out. That was a little bit more difficult because I felt like I was starting to move the foundation underneath a little bit. So I would just recommend when using creams to go from the stick with the brush instead of drawing directly on. I normally like my bronzer in a larger area, but if you really do love to cut out and contour, this was a perfect size and it worked perfectly with the creams. And then I believe the last thing that I used this for was highlighter, and it was fine, but I definitely prefer my Real Techniques brush. It's just a little bit smaller and it is duo fiber, so it just picks up the right amount. This is my Ride or Die highlighter brush, so I don't think I would use this for highlighter again. I mean, it would be personal preference at that point. It worked for the application, it blended it very nicely, just not my preference. I think I will definitely continue to use this as an under eye setting brush. I think that's probably what I will be using it for. All right, and the next brush that I used was the number 5. Now this one is pretty much like a small version of the bronzer brush. It's kind of what it reminds me of shape-wise. I used this for blush and I liked it. It did a good job at putting the blush on my cheeks. It blended it out without having to do anything crazy, and I did use a cream blush, but I would definitely say it's just not my preferred method. It's like pretty giving, but the blush brush that I normally use is very floppy. It has like, this one is way more dense. Like, see how that one's just, this one just splays out, no issue. And this one does have a little bit more pushback. So on my cheeks, since I do have redness, I like to have something, it's very, very light and very, very fluffy. Whereas this just it was like a paw, like a little kitten paw. So it was a bit much for me. But then I used it for my bronzer, and I really did like it as the bronzer. I used the Fenty Sunstalker bronzer. It is a very sheer formula that needs to be built up. So I tried to use the bronzer brush and it just like wasn't doing it for me. I really liked it more with this brush because it gave me more concentration where I wanted it, but it still blended out very easily. So I would definitely use this brush for bronzer again in the future. The number 22 brush. Now the reason I have been wanting this brush is because if you haven't seen any of my old videos, I love this brush and it is not something that is available. It's something I got at TJ Maxx years ago and I just have not been able to find anything that is this exact shape. So this is pinched this way, fanned this way, but then it is also domed this way, but it still keeps that. It doesn't have like a round shape. So this is what it looks like. I think, and it's very loose. Like, I don't know how. Like it has a lot of give, but when you go straight on, it does hold itself together. And I love this for all over the face powder. I love this for highlighter all over the face because if you didn't know, I use highlighter all over my face. I use the Essence Pure Nude highlighter. It is beautiful as a finishing powder. It reminds me just like what the Hourglass powders do in conjunction with big brushes like this. And I love it because it has the point so I can do my highlight and really pinpoint it, but then I can blend all over my entire face. So I really love this brush. If you know of a brush that's exactly like this, then let me know. But today I tried to use this Rephr number 22 brush in its place. Now first, let's discuss the shape comparison. Now I do think these shapes are very similar, but since this one is new, it is not worn in, it is not splayed out very much. But it does have this dome shape, this fan shape, and it still keeps the shape here, except for this one now has rounded corners, which are going to be better for blending. So it doesn't have these cutoffs here. It has the full blending capability all around the entire top, just like a round top kabuki foundation brush. When you're using a flat top kabuki, you're going to have to go this way, right? And you cannot hit those edges, whereas with the round top you can hit those edges and it will blend out and not give you streaks. I don't know if you noticed, but when I was using this one is at this moment a lot more dense and stiff. Stiff is not exactly the word that I want to give because it's not stiff, it's very soft, but it does have a bit more fight to it than this one. I feel like this one gives me, you know, it has a little bit more give than this one does, but it may, you know, fan out a little bit more and become more like this brush. But at this time, it's definitely like, this is the same amount of pressure as much as I can do, you know, like. I don't think this would be the best for that. And I don't know if you noticed, but I did pat more, whereas when I use this brush, I definitely do like big circular motions. This one was definitely more of a pat because of how much more dense it is. I feel like if I were to spin it around like that and also be pressing into my skin, it would have moved things around. And then I also did use this for bronzer as well, and it worked, but I used a very sheer bronzer, so it just didn't give me as much as I wanted. So I really did prefer the number 5 brush for bronzer. At this time, I'm not sure what I would use this brush for. I do think it's very soft. It is very beautiful, very good quality, but I don't know where it fits in my, maybe just when I do a full powder, you know. Let's see. Like right now, I've been wearing this makeup for a few hours, getting a little shiny. I'm just gonna dig into my Rimmel Stay Matte and just powder a little bit. So maybe this would be my preferred use for this brush, the patting in of some powders. As it gets a little bit more worn and after a couple of washes, I feel like I might be using it as my all over highlight brush. But at this time, it'll just be for powder. And I will try it with a more pigmented bronzer to see if it works a little bit more for me than the Fenty one, because that may have just been the problem, is I needed just a little bit more density to use that bronzer to where I wanted it. Okay, for the eyes. The only brushes I used today were these 3 and my NYX number 16, because I used the Pat McGrath Celestial Divinity palette and it only has 3 matte shades. I definitely needed a big fluffy brush like this to get a transition shade blended out that much. So I did need to use that brush today because there is not a big blender in this set. And the majority of the work was actually done with this, the number 1 brush. I used this to pat color on the inner and outer corner, to blend it into the crease. I used it to blend the majority of the color on my lower lash line. And I really, really enjoyed this. I don't have any brushes that are quite like this in my collection. I do have some blending brushes that are more pinched. So I have these 3 right here, which these 2 are kind of similar, which are all pinched like so. But as you can see, this one is way longer bristles and it is like a lot more pinched, and it has that nice point at the end, which really helps. So these ones are a little bit just more fluffy, more blendy. You're not going to get as much precision with these. This is the BH number 10 from the Zodiac, and then the Sonia Kashuk small and large eyeshadow brushes. But I would like to point out, it kind of, the feel of the brush kind of reminds me of this number 44 from NYX. And if I turn it this way, they do have quite a similar shape where it is thin and very tapered at the tip here, except for the NYX brush is just a small brush like this. It is like that 360, whereas this one does have the pinch, so there's a wide side and a thinner side. But what I say by the feel is they both give me the same amount of like force or fight, what I've been calling it. And they both have the bristles in the very center are very, very stiff compared to the bristles on the outside. So these can both give you a very specific and precise line, and then the rest of the brush blends it out. This one I think would be, you know, really good for the inner eye, really good for the crease. I think the same thing for this one, except for it's going to blend a little bit more. I did find it was kind of big for the inner corner, but I still made it work. But it really helped to have that wide angle to blend it up. So normally what I would have to do is I would go in with this, set a precise line, and it would blend it out. But then to blend it into the crease, I would have to take my number 16 to get it up there. Whereas this one kind of did in the crease what I do with both of these with just this one, and I really enjoyed it. And I like how thin it is to get on that under eye as well, and it's so wide that I can cover a large space quite quickly. So I really enjoyed this brush quite a bit. And then the next one I used is this Rephr number 2. And if you've seen any of my previous makeup application videos, I'm sure that this kind of looks familiar to you. It is very, very similar to one of my favorites, the NYX number 43. They both have the natural hair bristles. They are both this paddle shape that's like this. Now, as you can see here, let's see. The Rephr one does go to a little bit more of a point than this one. This one is more akin to like a super tiny version of this Sonia Kashuk brush, which I just showed you a minute ago. But these two, I think I would use kind of interchangeably. So today I use this to pack even more down into the outer corner and the inner corner and on the lower lash line to get really close to those lashes and blend out that lower lash line. I did try to use this brush for the shimmer as kind of like a shader packer brush, but the shimmer I was using was mostly glitter and it did not pick up a lot of that glitter particle. Now, maybe if I had wet the brush, it would have picked up the product, but I did not want to take a wet brush into my dry palette. That's just not something I enjoy doing. I like to pick up the product and then wet the brush. So I wouldn't know if you can use it for that application. You might have to look at someone else's video discussing these brushes for that, but I did really love it for blending the outer corner into the lower half and getting that lower lash line nice and smoky. And then this brush was actually a surprise favorite. I really enjoyed this brush. This is the Rephr number 3. And it is this teensy tiny little pencil brush with the finest point in the entire world. And it is also the softest. It still has some stiffness to it, so you will be able to get that precision, but it is so incredibly soft. Now, I use this today for my inner corner, and normally I use this Sigma E30. Now, the general shape of these is quite similar, but you can tell this Rephr one is a lot smaller and much more pointed here. There, is that a good? I don't know. This one might be my new inner corner one, guys. It might have dethroned my Sigma one. But it might also, like, I might use the Sigma one to get things blended up a little bit more in here. But this one is like perfect for perfectly placing things right here. And I also used it on the lower lash line to put that little bit of sparkle underneath, and I could get underneath my eyelashes very easily. I really enjoyed this. This was the surprise hit out of the collection. So my overall thoughts, I highly recommend that if you have been eyeing these brushes and you need new brushes and you want to try brushes from Japan on a much smaller budget, that you get the core collection. I really did enjoy these. I do think that a lot of these are going to be put into my like everyday use and into my favorites. I mean, I will have to use them more and see how they work with other applications than just this one face of makeup. But as of right now, I really enjoyed these. I thought these were going to be like mind-blowing, and that in itself, you know, has its own whatever, but instead of being mind-blowing, they were really good, which is its own thing. I don't know if that makes sense to you. If it makes sense, let me know down below. Help me find the words for that. But I just feel like instead of being these super unique and special brushes, which I do think they are unique and special in their own way, but they're not these super particular brushes. These are brushes that I would use every day. That's kind of what I'm getting at, is like these are the kind of brushes that are going to creep their way into replacing a lot of what I'm currently using as my everyday brushes. So I highly recommend getting the core collection, especially if it is still 50% off. Again, I will put that down below. That is such a great deal. As for the 20% off of everything else, hopefully that's still going on as well. I don't know if I would recommend this. This brush is like $100 or more than $100. I don't even know. Like, sometimes when I shop, I'm just like, just check out. I don't want to know. So sadly, I don't know if I would recommend this brush. I do. Oh, hope that I end up recommending this brush, but I don't know if I could in good conscience after one use recommend this brush. But I would definitely recommend looking at some of their other eye brushes, their blending brushes. They do have, like, I think it's number 12 and 13 are more similar to my NYX number 16 that I always use. So I would definitely look at the other smaller brushes, which are a lot more affordable, and having 20% off would be a great deal on those brushes. But I do recommend the NYX brushes. I always have links down below. If you guys are just looking for some really basic eye brushes that are really affordable, I highly recommend the NYX brushes. They are my favorite brushes, and even after using these today, they're still my favorite brushes. Like I said, I am going to put the link for Rephr down below for the sale if it's still going on, and I will also put Kiki Sweat's video down below because, like I said, she is super informative and super knowledgeable in the brushes and all of that. So I think that would be really helpful if you wanted to understand why Japanese brushes, why goat hair brushes, etc., and kind of get into that world a little bit more, because I don't have the knowledge. I'm not going to claim to, and I'm not going to watch her video and just repeat what she says and tell you, because that's not what I'm here for. I'm here to give you my personal review, and my review is I definitely recommend the core collection if you can get your hands on it. And that is all I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please give it a thumbs up if you did. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!